Hey Reviteers, and welcome to your first official lecture having to do with Revit. I wanted to start off this lecture by showing you exactly what my startup screen looks like. So here's my Revit shortcut, and I'm also going through the download process, probably just like you. I had to reestablish my educational license with them, and so when I open up Revit, it's going to ask me for like a 30-day trial, or do you want to buy Revit? Here we go. Get 1 month, get 3 free months. Now, we don't need to worry about this just yet. I have been waiting for about 2 or 3 days to get my educational license completed. I'm going to close out of that. And just so you know, I know that there are a few people in class who have already got past this point, and you probably won't have to enter in a serial number or a key because as you can see here, here's my Autodesk account. So as soon as I'm approved for the educational license, it's just going to switch from an unregistered version to the educational version. So hang tight as I get updates on that. I'm also going to let you know. Now, in this first part of our first lecture, I'm going to be going through some basics with you guys, and that includes explaining what BIM modeling is. I'm also going to go through a lot of navigation with your mouse. I'll show you guys how to view windows, how to close different windows, and basically just describe what you're looking at in Revit for the first time. So this first screen here is where we will always start. Now, sometimes we're going to start a new project. A lot of times we're actually going to be working in recent files. We don't really have any yet. You know, I've got my tiny house here that we're going to be working on in just a minute. But where I would like to start is the sample architecture project to help me explain again what BIM modeling is and go through some basics with you. So go ahead and click on that. And if you need some mouse basics, please refer to our mouse basics lecture that I have so that you can get comfortable with what I mean by click, double click, and scroll. I'm going to assume that all of you guys know what that means before you go further. If not, hit pause, hop out of here, and watch that first. So welcome for those of you guys who are continuing. I would love to jump right into Revit and explain what we're looking at. So up here at the top, it's pretty common. We have something called the ribbon. And in Revit, the ribbon is dynamic. So meaning that whenever you're working, this ribbon could change. 95% of the time we are in the architecture menu, but you can see there's structure, there's a view menu, there's also an insert menu. And like I said, we will use some of these, including the insert and the view, but most of the time we're going to be right here in architecture. Now, most everything's grayed out right now because what we're looking at right now is a title sheet or a sheet. If you have taken AutoCAD before, this is really similar to Paperspace. Now remember, you don't need to take AutoCAD to take this class. And just so you know, AutoCAD and Revit, they are similar just because they're made by the same parent company, but they're really nothing alike. So think about a sibling or a cousin. Again, you might have the same parents, but you're completely different. And this is the case here. So if you were really good at AutoCAD, it doesn't mean you're going to be good at Revit. It won't necessarily help you. And good news for those of you guys that don't love AutoCAD, you get to start fresh with a brand new relationship, and I'm sure you will love AutoCAD. So over here, so this is kind of like our model space or paper space area. Over here, we've got the properties menu, and you can see it tells us what the sheet is. And the properties menu is also dynamic. So depending on where we are, what we're working with, this also changes. Down here is the project browser that always lets us know where we are. So if I scroll down here, so I'm clicking and scrolling down, I'm on the title sheet. We won't spend a lot of time in sheets. We will spend some time in sheets, but for the most part, we're going to be right here in the thick of it. I'm going to double click on this level 1. We'll be here in like the floor plans, the sections, that's where most of it happens. So you can see here, this is what a floor plan looks like. I also have level 2. I'm just double clicking on these, and you can see they're opening up each one of the views in a different window. So although it's the same project, it's opening up different views for us. You can also check out like the living room view. If you want, you can scroll down, you can even open up an elevation view. And again, each one of these opens up in a new tab. So on that note, I wanted to talk about some of the first things to get comfortable with in Revit. Now, it's really easy to open up a lot of view windows, but if you're like me and working on a laptop this semester, it might get really heavy on your graphics card. So one button that's really helpful to close out all of these extra tabs is right up here. So I'm going to dance on it for a minute. It looks like 4 little squares with an X. This means close inactive views. So take a look here. As soon as I hit this red X, everything that wasn't my primary view is now closed, and that's really helpful. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to level 1, and I'm going to close out of the north view, and I just clicked on the X, so I've got level 1, and I also want to open up the 3D view, the approach. Okay. And one thing that I would like to point out, I should have pointed this out a little bit earlier, and if I did, I'm sorry if I'm being redundant. I can't remember part 1 of the lecture. That was a whole 20 minutes ago. But remember, take this at your own speed. We're not in a classroom where I can look at like furrowed brows or see hands going up if you guys have a question. But what you can do is you can click on, if this is embedded into your assignment, click on where it says YouTube. So you can look at it full screen, either on hopefully a separate screen, whether it's like an iPad, maybe even just streaming it from your phone, so that you can work with me side by side. If I happen to talk faster than you're comfortable with, slow down my speech. If I talk too slow, you can speed me up. And at any time, you can always rewind, fast forward, kind of skip to where you need to get to. So again, sorry if that's redundant, but I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. Okay, and then with that, now that I've got these two open, I'm going to go ahead and click on level 1. What I'd like to do right now is show you guys how to tile different views. One of the other things that we're going to start thinking about as we model in Revit is how we approach a project. And what I mean by that is, although many of you guys are early in your design career, maybe very early, I'm assuming that most of you guys have only designed in plan view. So basically you have a piece of paper or a screen in front of you and you work in this view. Well, when you work in Revit, you can essentially work in any view all at once. And the cool thing about it is that when you're drawing a wall, unlike drafting or AutoCAD, you're not just drawing 2 lines that represent a wall, but you're actually creating something that in a digital form, it actually has physical characteristics. And those physical characteristics include, width, height, even the construction. It's so amazing. So to start getting an idea of that, what I want to do, again, make sure you have level 1 and approach open. And what I'd like to do is show you one of my favorite shortcuts, which is WT. It stands for window tile. And what that does is it allows you to take your different window views and tile them so that you can look at both of them at once. I think it's pretty cool. You can also find this shortcut in the view menu. So we're coming up here into the ribbon for the first time. And if you scroll all the way over here to the right, you'll see tile views. So back in the day, they called it window tile, but they're like, tile views sounds better. So it's called WT because it stands for window tile, but tile views actually make sense. So again, that's hidden in the view menu. Another thing to note is that 90% of the time, 95% of the time, we're almost always in this architecture menu. So in case your screen looks different than mine, whether it looks like this or maybe like this, I'm almost always in that architecture menu, unless I tell you otherwise. So quick recap, we opened up level 1, we opened up the approach, and then with both of them open, we hit WT so that we could tile our views. And the reason why I wanted to do that, I know it's a little bit dark on my screen, so I cheated, I zoomed in. You're probably like, wait, how did she zoom in? So if you want to zoom in, what you do is you take your cursor. So if I wanted to zoom in here, this is kind of like the area where I want to zoom into, and I start scrolling upwards. So scroll up zooms in, and then scroll down zooms out. All right, so again, your mouse, your cursor arrow is essentially like your magnifying glass. So if I wanted to zoom in right here, again, roller ball up gets me in, and then roller ball down gets me out. I'm not clicking or anything, I'm just hovering over these areas and going in and out. And I can do the same thing here on the floor plan. So if I put my mouse over the table, if I roller ball up, it zooms me in, roller ball down, out. So there's some navigation for you as well. Another thing that you can do with your mouse is if you hold down the roller ball, what you can do is something called panning. Do you see that four-headed arrow that pops up? This is kind of just letting you move the sheet around so that you can quickly move from side to side. This isn't a huge plan, so I might not have to pan that much, but it is helpful to know how to pan. And again, this is also why that optical mouse is important, so that you do have that roller ball and you're able to kind of pan and zoom in and zoom out. So one thing that I think is kind of fun about this is I'm gonna zoom in here. I see some bar stools. Let's see what level these are on. Are those? I'm gonna hit escape. I'm gonna try to click on them. Maybe not try to click on them yet. Are you a bar stool? Yeah, so check this out. So here's this bar stool kind of peeking in. So if I want to select something, again, I click on it. Now you can try to deselect it, hit escape. So click on it to select, escape to deselect it. And do you see that we can see these bar stools kind of coming up through the window here? I feel like a little bit of a creeper. So I've got one bar stool. If I want more than one, I hold the control key. And do you see that there's a tiny, tiny little plus sign on my screen? So I'm gonna no control, now the control key, plus sign. It allows me to keep clicking on stuff and selecting it. So now I've got 3 bar stools. If I feel really cool, I can hit delete. Boom. They are not only gone in the floor plan, but they're also gone in the 3D model. Now, before we get too far, let me show you another one of my favorite commands. Control plus the Z button is the undo button. It brings it back. So we just undid that. We brought them back. So lots of things there. So click to select, escape to deselect. Do you remember what button to push to grab more than one item? Was it control or shift? It was control. So the control key will give you a little plus sign and you can keep adding. And then again, control plus Z is undo. It undoes something if you didn't mean to do it. So hopefully you're still with me. We're still within like the first 5 minutes of the model. So I hope you're not panicking yet. You know, we're going to take a lot of time to get comfortable with Revit. We have to get a lot of like hand-eye coordination with like the mouse and the computer, make sure our hands are comfortable putting in all the commands. So we're going to take it slow, but part of taking it slow is also kind of taking it easy. Like this is the fun stuff right now. We're just zooming in, zooming out. There's really nothing we can do wrong at this point. So what I wanted to do again is to show you what BIM modeling is. And I think that was a really good example of BIM modeling. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. And essentially what that translates into is what I was talking about earlier, where in drafting and AutoCAD, you are just putting down lines that represent a space or some sort of construction entity. Where in building information modeling, even though in your plan you see a circle similar to what you would see in CAD and hand drafting, you can see here in the 3D model that that chair has, you know, dimension and material, and it has a completely different profile than what the actual circle is showing in the plan. Another part of BIM modeling is that when we are drawing a building, we aren't doing it floor by floor. So for example, like in AutoCAD or hand drafting, you can draw the first floor and then you have to draw the second floor in another view or another piece of paper. That's not how it works in Revit. In Revit, you've got the first floor and then right on top of it in another view is level 2. So here's level 2. I'm not sure. Let's see what I can grab here. So in this view, if I grab this window, oh, boom, there's the window. If I grab this window, boom, there's that window right there. So everything's interconnected, which is a great thing because let me give you an example. So if you are working in AutoCAD or hand drafting, I need to come up with a word that just represents both of those. But if you're working with either one of those, let's say that you have a floor plan like this, and you decide, you know what, my client wants to add 5 feet here and add 2 windows, okay? You can easily do that on the computer, but think about all of the other views that you have to update. You've got the first floor below it that needs to be stretched because you're not going to stretch a second floor without stretching the first floor. You've got elevations that you need to add that 5 feet to. You probably have interior elevation sections. There are so many views that you need to coordinate if you were to do this, you know, with AutoCAD or hand drafting. But the great thing is, again, with BIM modeling, even if I grab this window and delete it here, look, it's gone here. It coordinates the whole thing because in BIM modeling, everything is connected. And just an FYI, I did a quick Control-Z, so it brought my window back. So this is just a really quick peek into the world of BIM modeling. So now if you feel brave, like come ruin their dinner party. Let's go back onto the first level. See these plates and cups? Come clear the table, little children. Like that. I love that it's all connected. You know, we can get rid of the table, we can get rid of the chairs. It's all connected. We could even be really bad and just window. Oh, not like that. So Control-Z. If that ever happens, if you ever hear it get mad at you, for now we'll just hit Control-Z and go back to where I was happy. But that's just a really quick introduction on how BIM modeling works and some really quick navigation. So from here, you can see that I've opened up level 1, level 2, and approach. Going back to the very beginning of our lecture when we started, do you remember how I can start closing some of these windows? Okay. So if I hit close inactive views, right, it got rid of level 2 because it was inactive. But if we wanted to close these, you can see that there's an X, so I can close it. That doesn't close the project, it just closed that view. But if I close out level 1, since it's the only view open, then it will actually close out the entire project. So I would say while you're here, go ahead and click around to all the different views and see the potential of the BIM model. So I'm gonna wait to see, not responding. Oh, it's the circle of blue death. Good thing I was kind of at the end of that lecture. So sometimes the circle of blue death comes up, and this is maybe a great time to say that one of my favorite other keyboard shortcuts is Control S. That is a save command, so it does like a quick save for you, but luckily my kitchen did pull up. This is really heavy on my graphic card because if you can see, they have all of the materials loaded up here, so it might take a minute for my computer. I surely miss our lab, but the great thing is you can still run Revit on a laptop. So, but poke around here, see what they've got. They've got these beautiful sections built in this model too. We aren't going to get this detailed, but before you know it, we will be jumping into, you know, elevations, sections, definitely floor plans. So kind of check out the potential of what's kind of waiting around the corner for you guys. And before you close out, you know, maybe check out this window tile. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I wanted to tile these views, just did the WT, check that out. That's a little ridiculous. I'd have a hard time making sense of anything. I usually don't tile, 3 is my usual, but sometimes I'll do 4, but 3 is kind of like my jam. I do 2 and then like 1 big one. So you will find that out shortly. But thanks for taking this little walkthrough with me. I hope you're excited to learn Revit and see the potential and the projects that you can start putting together. I'm ready to close down, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I will see you guys back here for the next part of the lecture where we are actually going to start our own BIM modeling.